Shabbat Shalom. Greetings, glory, and honor to the Father of all things that live, Father Yahweh, and the God and Father of the Messiah who speaks on his behalf, Messiah Yahweh Shai, who is Father's high priest, who is Father's prophet, who is the soon coming king of the kingdom given to him from Father Yahweh Shai. Glory and honor to his name, who shows us the grace of the Father in sacrificing himself for our sin, his people, and through his people the earth. Glory and honor to his name and to the Father Yahweh by the power of the Father's Spirit that brings us conviction to faith. Greetings to the 12 tribes according to this book, scattered through slavery into the four corners of the earth, and who are now awakening to who they are by a call made from the 144,000, and greetings to them who are the forerunners of the kingdom and the establishment of Messiah's kingdom. Greetings to the Gentiles who have received the truth of the Father's righteousness through the Hebrew line of the tribe of Judah, Messiah Yahweh Shai. Greetings to the chat, Isha Shama, brother, Shama, Kara Ross, Azariah, Bak Israel, superstar and his family, Brother Diamond Holdings, Akmar, Brother Gary Joseph, Akawan Banya and his lovely family, Angry Britches, and to all others, greetings and welcome. We have been studying Deuteronomy, and we're in chapter 24 of the book of Deuteronomy, the prophetic, historical, and righteousness teaching book. And we're in the principles of righteousness of chapter 24. And I want to start off today with couple of verses that people know but ignore, and because it's convenient to ignore them. One of those verses is, let me see, I think it's 2 Timothy, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yes, I think it's 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6. And of course, let's get 2 or 3 witnesses. 1 Timothy chapter 6, beginning at verse 1. 1 Timothy chapter 6, beginning at verse 1 and going down to verse 12. 1 Timothy chapter 6, from verse 1 to verse 12. Let's read what the epistle says. Let as many servants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor, that the name of Yahweh and his doctrine be not blasphemed. And they that have believing masters, let them not despise them, because they are brethren, but rather do them service because they are faithful and beloved, partakers of the benefit. These things teach and exhort. If any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of the Master Yahweh Shai, the Messiah, and to the doctrine which according to godliness, is according to godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmisings, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds, and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. But they that will be rich fall into temptations and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of Yahweh, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses. Yes, notice it says, depart from people. It says, people who are perverse, of corrupt minds, destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. So don't hang around people that think gain is godliness. Are there religious people in the world today, even religious leaders that are teaching even subversively that you are blessed if you can get great gain? And talking about money, right? If you can gain, if you can stack dollars, you're blessed, right? But this is saying that the true man of Yahweh should withdraw himself from these people that teach that gain is godliness. And when it says the love of money is the root of all evil, obviously what it's talking about is greed. You understand that? You see that? So we're talking about greed. Greed is the root of all evil. People are greedy. I remember once one of my favorite movies used to be one of my favorite movies, because there was a time, as I said, that I wanted to be a billionaire. So one of my favorite movies, the movie I would study a lot, was the first movie, Wall Street. Wall Street, because it was about getting rich. That's right. And in the movie, Gordon Gekko, the man playing Gordon Gekko, says greed is good. And he said greed of love, greed of happiness. And he tried to make greed good, but greed is associated with money. It's not associated with godliness. See? And he tried to twist it and say greed is good. And I said, yeah, greed is good. See? But the truth is, greed is the root of all evil. People that are greedy, okay, that want more, that are never satisfied if they don't have as much as you or more. See? You have billions. Greedy people don't care about how much they have. They care about how much more they're going to get. That's greed. But he tells us to fight the good fight of faith. Now, I looked up the word faith. It's interesting. Tonight I was looking up interesting testimony. I have a small testimony about this, as a matter of fact, in terms of what he says in the beginning, that many servants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor, that the name of Yahweh and of his doctrine be not blasphemed. I pray in the morning and ask the Most High, thank him for what he's done for me and everything he is doing for me, and ask for his guidance. And this morning I was led to, something came into my mind about what had happened if your boss disrespects you. Y'all know I feel like with disrespect, especially among white males, but because in my mind, in my heart, I was starting to get angry. But then I thought about it and said, okay, why did that thought come into my mind? Came into my mind to prepare me. And something happened at work today. And of course, it is Friday, and you'll know what Friday's about. Friday's about the preparation for the Shabbat, but Friday's also Satan's opportunity to get your mind off of preparation for the Shabbat. So you expect these things, and I expect these things on Friday. And so he sent me this email, and it was, subtly nasty, these little subtle email nasty things, right? And and the first thing I noticed is I looked at the date, because today was Friday. You remind myself it's Friday. So I answered and I said, good day. Thank you. Thank you for these words. I said, I'm going to contemplate these words, and I will over the weekend. See, and I appreciate your input. And I left it like that. See, but the Most High had warned me in advance this morning. And of course, I already know it's Friday, right? And so what does that have to do with this verse? Because all of us, when you're working for somebody in this world, you're a slave. All of us are different degrees of slavery. Okay? All of us are. When somebody's got to pay you a check, you're a slave. Okay? So all of us are in different degrees of slavery. Some are high price slave, like Mr. T back in the day said, I'm still a slave, but my price tag is higher because he's on television. He's getting paid from his TV show. So he said, I'm still a slave, but my price tag is higher. Okay, so all of us are different degrees of slavery. And so the people we work for are, in effect, our masters. Though we don't like to think of it like that, but it's true. Okay, so we want to bring, as it says here, let's see, it says that the name of Yahweh and his doctrine be not blasphemed. And that's what stopped me today from acting the fool. See? And the love of money, greed, is the root of all evil. You know, I was also studying this today. I'm in Romans now. I finished Acts and I'm in Romans. And, you know, I've done Bible studies on Romans. You know, we have it in our group of Bible studies. I think we did one make less than 2 years ago. But again, I just want to stress to you, please, you know, read this book. Because every time I read it, I learn something. And this is, like I said, the 20th time I started in Genesis and now going through, and now I'm in Romans. And I've learned something today. So I'm reading in Romans chapter 2, right? And like, let's look at chapter 1. Romans chapter 1. Okay, Romans chapter 1. Romans chapter 1. Let's begin at verse 20, because this used to have me for a minute, but it became very clear today. Romans chapter 1 let's read verse 20, 21, and 22. And it's going to be silly to some of y'all, because I saw some of y'all already got it, but I didn't. It took me a minute. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because that when they knew not Yahweh, they glorified him not as Yahweh, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So the question that I want to ask you, that I learned today very clearly, I might have had a cloudy knowledge of it before, but it became much clearer today. In these 3 verses, are you ready for the question? Are you ready? In these 3 verses, 20, 21, and 22, are you ready for the question? Okay. In these 3 verses, Romans 1, 20, 21, and 22, who is they? In these 3 verses, 20, 21, and 22, who is they? It tells you. It doesn't tell you in those 3 verses. I will give you that. It tells you in Romans 1 who these 3 verses are. Who is they? Let me read it. Let's read, because the answer to who they is, is in verse 18. Let's look at verse 18. Who is the they that's doing these evil things? Notice what it says in verse 18. Watch this. For the wrath of Yahweh is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. So who the they is plainly given here. It says people who are ungodly, unrighteous, and they hold the truth in unrighteousness. Okay, that's who they is. So he's talking about they. He says these are ungodly from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. That's who that is. Now, the verse before that is the end of the definition of the gospel. Look at verse 17, because this helped me out. Watch verse 17 and 18. For therein is the righteousness of Yahweh revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. For the wrath of Yahweh is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. So now from that point, he starts talking about they, and that's who he's talking about. Now wait, I looked up the word faith, and I've looked it up before, but sometimes when something's hitting you, you got to look it up again. You got to see it again. So I looked up the word faith. And the two words that came up first when you look up the word faith, I think it's pistis is the word in Greek, pistis. The two words that come up is persuasion and conviction. And of course, the conviction part is what I laid hold on. So from conviction to conviction, therein is the righteousness of Yah revealed from conviction to conviction. Does that make sense? From conviction to conviction. As it is written, the just shall live by conviction. Now look here. Isn't that what we live by? Our what? Our conviction. Okay. We live by our conviction. So the people that are declared innocent are people that are living by their conviction, the conviction of the Spirit, the conviction of the Father. So somebody say, well, why do you believe there's a God? Because I am convicted. What you say? I'm taking it by faith. I am convicted. You understand? I'm convicted. So wait a minute. Then it talks about ungodliness. And my favorite definition of godliness in the Bible, and that's why I try to find Bible definitions of things, much as I can. Like we got the Bible definition of the gospel. Well, what's the Bible definition of godliness? Well, my favorite one, I'm sure there's more than one, but my favorite one is in the Psalms 32. Psalms, the 32nd division of the Psalm 32. Psalm 32. My favorite, this is my favorite definition. It is so clear to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just like everybody, like, you know what? And I keep telling y'all, when you read your Bible, when you start at Genesis and read through the Revelation, there's going to be things that hit you that may not have hit me the same way. There's going to be things that hit you that come to your spirit that the Most High revealing to you that didn't reveal to me. And there's things that revealed to me that didn't reveal to you. See? So this is one of them verses. This one hit me when it talks about the definition of godliness. And this is Psalm 32, verse 5, and then the first half of verse 6. Verse 5 and the first half of verse 6. I acknowledged my sin unto thee, and my iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto Yahweh, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. For this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee in the time when thou mayest be found. So what is godliness? It is acknowledging my sin and mine iniquity and not hiding my sin from the Most High or my iniquity and confessing my sin and my transgressions to the Most High and receiving from him forgiveness. That's godliness. See? And then it says, for this shall everyone that is godly pray unto thee. So now, then it becomes for me. Let me see if it does for you, but for me, it becomes very easy now. So what is ungodliness? It's the opposite. Would that make sense, y'all? So if I say ungodliness is the opposite of godliness, right? So if I say ungodliness, that means I don't acknowledge my sin. I hide my iniquity. I don't confess my transgressions to the Most High. And I don't get forgiveness. That's ungodliness. And so when you go back to Romans 1, and he says, in verse 18, for the wrath of Yahweh is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness. That means people that are not acknowledging their sin, confessing their iniquity. They're hiding their sin. They're not receiving forgiveness. Ungodliness and unrighteous men hold the truth. Now, this is a powerful one. Hold the truth in unrighteousness. In other words, they receive conviction, but they pushed back against it. See, conviction causes you right. Conviction causes you to repent. Conviction causes you to acknowledge your sin, confess your transgression, to bring it to the Most High and receive forgiveness. But these hold the truth. The truth is that we're all sinners in unrighteousness. So while they receive the conviction, they fight it. Y'all know that? I mean, I think we've all done it at times, right? But there are people we know that stay in that state. They never acknowledge the truth. They never come to repentance in the truth. And so they are ungodly to the Most High. And therefore, all of these things that follow are what follows ungodliness. It follows ungodliness. So that the ungodly are not acknowledging they sin to the Father Yahweh. They're not confessing their iniquity to him. They're hiding their iniquity from him. They're pressing back against the faith, the conviction of perfect righteousness. They're not receiving perfect right. You see, because when we receive perfect righteousness, and many of you can bear witness, when you receive perfect righteousness, you start to feel your own dirtiness because you acknowledge you don't deserve perfection. You're not perfect. You understand? I'm not, I don't deserve, but I received this perfect cleansing. I received this perfect gold-like truth of the Spirit. And I know it's not from me because I don't deserve it, but it comes from the Father. That's how you get godliness. So ungodliness is catching that conviction, but withstanding it. You're withstanding the conviction, and it leads to all the evils that he talked about after that they are the ungodly that hold the truth. Like some of y'all said, well, these are the scattered northern tribes. Yes, it could be a lot of them. It could be them too. It's mostly them, but he's talking to the Romans. So it could be, and actually when you read chapter 2, you realize he's talking to the Hebrews that are among the Gentiles and the Gentiles also. And he brings at the end when he talks about what exactly is a Jew. Well, some people who don't read the New Testament and the Old Testament, just read the New Testament, get this all confused and think that now anybody can be a Jew, even though whatever you believe in white Jesus or whatever. But no, what he's trying to say is because you're the bloodline don't mean you're a true Hebrew. And we know that. Do you know that there's unawakened Hebrews who resist the truth? Unawakened Hebrew who resist the truth. In other words, they bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Didn't Messiah say, I know you Abraham's seed, but your father's the devil. So you can be bloodline but not be a true Jew, not be a true Israelite. So what's Paul talking about here then? Awakened Israelites. And then he said, even Gentiles who follow the truth of the conviction of the righteousness of the Father, though they're not circumcised, will be accepted, because the most important thing is how you live with the truth. That's right. So Gentiles that receive the truth of the Father are received from him. But then again, as we know, even today, one of the tests is, of course, if a Gentile is going to receive the truth, they're going to receive us as well. They're going to acknowledge the truth. Who is the true Hebrew? They're going to acknowledge the truth. That's right. They're going to acknowledge the truth, because if they fighting the truth, then they fighting the whole conviction. You can't say, I'm believing that there's an Israel saying, but y'all not it, or I refuse to say, you see, you're it. Well, see, now you fighting the truth. That's ungodliness. That's right. Judah is the lawgiver. Thank you. And that's right. See? So godliness leads to repentance. Ungodliness fights conviction and leads down paths that he described in chapter 2. So when we go back now to 1 Timothy, chapter 6, he says, let's start again at verse 3. Actually, let me start at verse 2. Of 1 Timothy chapter 6. And they that have believing masters, let them not despise them, but they are brethren, but rather do them service, because they are faithful and beloved, partakers of the benefit. These things teach and exhort. If any man teach otherwise, and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of the Master Yahweh Shai Messiah, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness, he is proud. See, if somebody's fighting conviction, you can see that they're going to definitely show pride, right? He is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, and smiles. So if somebody wants to debate and argue, that's a proud man. That's not a man that's humble and seeking godliness. That's a man seeking to win a debate. That's not godliness. I mean, how many people do you know that get in a debate about religion and got converted based on a debate about religion? How many people do you know that receive the Father's spirit of righteousness based on a debate about religion? I mean, how many guys that win the debate cause the loser of the debate to be converted? Right? So debate doesn't do anything. It doesn't put it this way. Debate does not glorify Father. And look, Messiah didn't debate with Psa Thou. He said, get thee hence. He said, get thee hence. Yahweh rebuke you. Remember also in the vision of Zechariah, Psa Thou stood at the right hand of Joshua to resist him. Did they debate with him? They said, this is a brand plucked out of the fire. Yahweh rebuke you. Right? There's no debate. No need to debate. Because, and at the end of the day, again, what we are following is our conviction of the Spirit. That's what we're following. We're following conviction of the Spirit. Okay? You see that? Yeah. So when we follow conviction of the Spirit, you don't need to debate because you can't debate yourself. And that's what you're doing. When you have a debate with somebody about a religious theme or religious doctrine, and you're convicted about the truth of a doctrine, somebody trying to move you off your conviction, or you don't try to move anybody else off theirs. And they say, well, I'm convicted it's true. Okay. The will of Yahweh will be done. The Most High knows our hearts, and he knows those that are fake in the funk and those that are real in their conviction. You know, you don't have to worry about that. That's right. The Spirit convicts us of the truth. That's right. No argument convicts us. It's the Spirit of the Most High that convicts us of the truth. See? So that's one. Second witness, James. James, let's see. James says a lot about this. But it really gets to the point in chapter 5. James chapter 5. James chapter 5. James chapter 5 from verse 1 to 7. James chapter 5 from verse 1 to 7. Yeah, we should always seek peace, man, right? As much as possible, seek peace and not debate as much as possible, especially religious themes. On religious themes, just seek peace. If somebody says you don't know what you're talking about, whatever, just say, okay, just leave it alone. And that's what I just leave it alone. Say, okay, fine. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm convicted on this, and we're just going to leave it alone. Some people, the proud ones, they can't leave it alone. They keep coming, man. You'll notice that you have a hard time getting rid of them because they need to win the debate. They need to win. See, they need to win. Oftentimes, even on my Nick's channel, people come and want to debate. And I'll always say, I'll let you have the last word and I'll leave it here. And I'll let them go ahead and keep talking. And if they keep talking too much after I just said, leave it alone, and they just keep going and sometimes, like, there's one dude, he kept following me around when somebody asked a question or said something, and I said something, he had to have something to say after, and I told him, I said, you messing with the third rail, man. Leave it. Stop. And he ain't stopped. Okay? There's a way to handle that. Because I didn't want to debate with him. And he kept wanting to fight and debate. And then when I wouldn't, he kept following me now. See, that's what happens when you want to win an argument. See, I told him, I said, you messing with the third rail, man. Don't do it. You know what happens when you touch the third rail? So anyway, James chapter 5 from verses 1 to 7. James chapter 5 from verses 1 to 7. Exactly. Yeah, he caught Block Ness Monster. So James 5, 1 to 7. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. So he's telling rich men they're going to have misery. Why? Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, that is the master of hosts. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. Be patient, therefore, brethren, who unto the coming of the master. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it until he receive the early and the latter rain. See, one thing, brethren, that cuts across all colors, all nations, and this is the thing, like I said, race is of man, nations are of the Most High. The Most High tells us in his word that from Shem, Ham, and Japheth, he divided the nations. He didn't say he divided the races of people. He divided the nations, okay? Now, the people who invented race are Japheth's children. They invented race. So I don't like to refer to race as much as I can, but I sometimes do it because it's easy for you people to identify who I'm talking about. But the children of Japheth generally, like my wife and I now in the habit, when we see somebody that's so-called black, we will say they're Hebrew. I come back and I say, you know, there's a Hebrew up the street I was talking to, and she'll know I'm talking about somebody that's called black. If I say, well, they say, who? I say somebody from the northern tribes. She'll know I'm talking about. If I say northern tribes, she know I'm talking about Spanish people. Okay. And if it's Caucasian, I will say children of Japheth. That's them children of Japheth. Okay. And so that's, you know, and then if it's somebody that's a believer, I'll say the word awakened, and she'll know what I'm talking about. If I say it's an awakened Hebrew or an awakened from northern tribes, you know, she'll know what I'm talking about. Right. So I try not to use the word black or Spanish or unless it's somebody that's ignorant of the truth. But people that know the truth, I'll say that was a Hebrew right there, or I'll say that was northern tribes, or I'll say that's the children of Japheth. And people know what I'm talking about generally. See, and so so back in here, he's telling us that the people that are patient and that are oppressed by rich people. Now, you and I know, truly, the business of this earth is controlled by corporations, are they not? I mean, right? I mean, the wealth and power and business of the earth is controlled by corporations, right? I mean, and the corporations are owned by the majority of the owners of the corporation. If it's a public corporation, is the majority of the stockholders who have the majority of the stock. They control the corporation. Okay. If it's a private corporation, still the majority of the stock. And then they have boards of directors, and the boards have most of the stock, and they control the corporations. Okay. These are the Bible is talking about, you rich men. Okay. And the people that are affected by their decisions, like if they decide tomorrow we're going to lay off. Like I was on a job last year, and it was a Tuesday. It was, like I said, it was a day I was coming to see my father, Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm coming to see my father after he fell. And that day, my supervisor said, we're giving this notice to 33 people today. They just decided to lay off 33 people. Just like that. And you're one of the 33. See? Just like that. Because they make decisions that affect people below them, which is us. Okay? So there are people from all nations that are affected like this. From all nations that are under control of more powerful people who oppress them, that the power can become more powerful and greed can reign. Okay? And so the Bible's talking about them. Okay, and so they trust in their wealth. They trust in their power. And the thing is that, brethren, I'm 62 years old this year. And I'm telling you, man, it was like I was 19 yesterday. It just flew by like that. I mean, just These decades just came by real quick. My wife and I marvel every day how fast life went. And that we now married 38 years, going to be 39 years this year. And we're like, where did those years go? But you know what? It happens like that for everybody. So people that are wealthy and powerful and they're living well and they live in large and they make decisions on people, their life goes by just as fast. And their money and their power can't save them from death. Death is still going to come. Okay? This death is still going to come. So all of us face the same end, as Solomon would say, the dead dog and the dead person still dead. And he said, a live dog is better than a dead lion, right? Dead lion's dead. Dog is still alive, right? So all of us face death, but the powerful and rich, these years going to go by and they're going to have all of this they want. They're going to be like Lazarus in the parable and the rich man in the parable. Have all they want, live lavishly, make their decisions that affect millions of people so that they can live large. Enjoy it now. The years go by fast. And the return of the Messiah is coming quickly. Okay, it's coming quickly. The return of the Messiah is coming quickly. Ask me no questions, entertainment, and I'll tell you no lies. Let me put it to you that way. Ask me no questions, and I'll tell you no lies. Third witness. Ask me no questions, and I'll tell you no lies. Okay. Matthew. Oh, man. Let's see here. What do I want? What do I want? Okay, yes. Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. Very simple one. I mean, the third witness, Messiah. So we have Timothy, Paul, James, and now we have Messiah, third witness. This is Matthew chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 19. I'm going to start at verse 19 and read down to verse 24. Matthew chapter 6, from 19 to 24. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve Yah and Mammon. So there's 3 verses talk about greed, talk about the love of money, talk about the earth, how it works with the rich and the poor. And so why do I mention all that? Because in chapter 24 of Deuteronomy, is teaching again a lot of the laws and statutes and judgments of Israel have really to do with really 2 things. A lot of in public in dealing with each other, they're dealing with 2 things: how we treat the poor. And again, we talked about this before, the working poor, right? Or people that are able to work and working but just can't make enough money, or people that can't get a job, or people that are afflicted with some disease or some problem that stops them from working. But we talked about that. So how these people are treated by the society, by the nation, is an example of the nation. And then, of course, women. How women are treated, how women act, the relationships between the man and the woman. The Bible talks about these because this always also reflects on the nation. How the woman is carries herself. We talked about the virtuous woman of Proverbs 31, how the woman carries herself, and she carries herself as someone that is a wife. Even if a woman is not married, she can still carry herself like a wife. And I think you'll understand what I say what I mean when I say that. If so, there could be a woman that carries herself like a wife. And in fact, you sisters, I think you should understand this, is that subconsciously, even without even consciously thinking about, a man is looking at you. What would she be like as a wife? And he's thinking about having sex with you if he likes the way you look, because if he first notices your body, then he's not thinking of you as a wife. He's thinking of you as a sexual object. And what you're conveying is showing him that you are a sexual object. But if she's carrying herself like a lady of dignity and honor, then he's going to look at her with more respect. And he might still think of her as a sexual object, but that's not his first thought. His first thought is going to be, oh, she could be a wife. So that the woman is a representation of the nation. That's why Messiah say, when I talk about the husband and the wife, he said, I'm thinking of man and the church, Messiah and the church, which is the nation. Okay, so the Bible speaks, and Deuteronomy speaks, as we already read, about that relation, the purity of the woman, the purity of the marriage relation. Okay, and how, there's severe penalties for going against that because it's a representation of the nation. And then, of course, the poor, how the poor are treated, how the poor are handled, how their situation is. And he made provision in Israel for the poor, as we have seen. And we're going to see that some more. Yes. So the Babylonian whore does not carry herself with dignity. She's physically attractive, though. Remember, John looked at her and he was amazed by her, and the angel rebuked him, right? So he was looking and said, ooh. And she's like, hey, what you looking at? Right? Look, Revelation chapter 17. Revelation chapter 17, verse 4 through 7. Revelation 17, verse 4 through 7. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? She was beautiful. She was attractive. And in spite of the fact that he knew what she had done and he knew what she was about, he admired her because of the sight of his eyes. The great whore. Okay? The great whore. I read just this week, there was an actress, and I won't say the movie, but there's an actress, and she was in the script, she was going to do the scene with the actor, and she was playing a mistress. So she was going to do the scene with the actor, and the scene called for her to wear something very provocative, and to tempt the man who was married. She was going to play the mistress, playing the mistress. She was going to tempt him, right? He was a rich married man. And she said, she told the director, I'm going to do the scene nude. And the director said, you don't have to do that because the scene doesn't call for you to be nude. She said, no, but I'm playing a character. And my character, her currency is her body. And since her currency is her body and she's trying to attract this man, she's going to use her body to do that because that's her currency. Well, sisters, ask that question to yourself. Is your body your currency? If your body is your currency, then you're selling yourself cheap, aren't you? And brothers, if you want a woman because of her body, that's the currency. That's what you're marrying into, just the body, not the mind, not the spirit, not the intelligence level. You're marrying into not the faithfulness, the trustworthiness. Nope. You're marrying the body, and you're buying low. Yep. You're buying low. See? Because that's like the actor said it. She said, in my character, my currency is sex in my body. That's my currency. And I said, wow. And I thought to myself, she actually understood that he's a heathen in a movie. She understood that. That's right. See? So we all need to understand that. What is the currency? Is it the body? Is it the looks? Is it the sex? Is that the currency? John saw this woman. What was her currency? It was her beauty. It was her, what she looked like. It was how she was in terms of glory and gold and silver. And he admired her. And he was rebuked by the angel. Why are you marveling? She's the great whore. She's dirty. What you marveling? She killed your brethren. Why are you marveling? Yeah, Bible speaks a lot about this subject, man. All right. That's why she's the great whore. But what does the Bible call Israel? He calls Israel the virgin daughter of Zion. That's what he calls Israel, the virgin daughter of Zion. That's what he calls it. See, calmly and delicate. That's right. I've likened Zion to a calmly delicate woman. Comely. He said comely, beautiful and delicate. He said virgin daughter, purity of Zion. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Those descriptions really help clarify how we're supposed to carry ourselves, both men and women. Brothers, you have a wife. Is your wife the virgin daughter of Zion? Do you treat her like that? Do you treat her like the virgin daughter of Zion? It occurred to me yesterday. I'm watching this couple on YouTube, and the woman's face was glowing, right? She looked beautiful. She was husband and wife, and I think they had like 2 or 3 kids, and her face was glowing. I said, wow, she looks beautiful. And I realized part of her beauty comes from the love her husband gives her. And that just hit me. I said, oh, shoot. It wasn't just that she was fine because she had a beautiful skin and face and all that, but part of the beauty that she was exhibiting was because her husband loved her. And she was growing from that love. See, husbands, you have a power too. Sisters have a power and brothers have a power. Is she your virgin daughter of Zion? Do you treat her like that? Like you want Yahweh to treat the church or the nation? Do you treat her like that? And the Bible say that's what Messiah did. He gave himself for her, that he might redeem her. Yeah. 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 And that's what I saw. I actually saw that verse in action just in those few minutes watching them. And I was like, wow, he loves her. That's her man, and she loves him, and he trusts her. And that's coming out in her face. Isn't that beautiful, brethren? Wish we could all, experience that, right? It's a beautiful thing, man. Deuteronomy chapter 24. Okay. Now he's talking about lending to the poor. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 24, beginning at verse 10. Beginning at verse 10. I'm going to go from verse 10 down to verse 13 to start. Deuteronomy chapter 24 from 10 to 13. Thank you, brother Akawambanya. When thou dost lend thy brother anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. Thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee. And if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep with his own raiment and bless thee. And it shall be righteousness unto thee before Yahweh thy most high. The pledge is the collateral. So if you're somebody borrowing money, right? You got to have collateral generally to borrow money. So he's saying the collateral, you don't go into his house looking for the collateral. You let him bring it out to you. I mean, right? When somebody comes searching through your house for something, and that's kind of embarrassing, it's kind of invasive, isn't it? But he's saying, don't do that. Don't go looking, don't go in this house demanding the pledge. You stand outside. So you're showing the poor respect in that, right? And then he said, let him bring you the pledge. Okay. And if it's clothes, if he bringing you his shirt off his back as a pledge, so he needs your money, don't let him sleep at night without his clothes. Bring it back to him. Understand? So again, let's remember this rule. If you can't give up it, don't lend it. And this is especially true with family. And the reason, I don't know if it was like that in biblical times, but since we've been enslaved and we've been scattered, it's certainly like that now. If you can't do without it, don't lend it. If you could give it, and okay, I'm going to give you this, give what you can give that you can lose. Okay, nobody can lose $1, but I'm saying if somebody's asking you for 500 and you 500, ooh, that's a little steep. I could give you 50, and you don't even want to give the 50, but you're willing to do that. Okay, give the 50, and they might even say, "I'm gonna pay you back." Okay, brother, but don't in your heart say, "Okay, let me write that 50 off." Yeah, write that 50 off. Don't expect it back, and that's why Messiah even said, when you lend, don't expect it back. He said that. When you lend, don't expect it back. Give and don't expect it back. Otherwise, don't do it. Because there'll be bad blood. That's right. Interest, right? Don't borrow. Don't borrow. If somebody gonna give you, let them give you. But do not borrow. Debt. And let me tell you something, man. I owe money for my education. I got loan money out there too, consolidation and all that, and I'm still paying it. Do your best not to do it. And you know what? It used to I guess you get this stuff in the mail. We giving you $35,000, and it's coming with all kinds of strings attached. Now I just rip them up. Honestly, I just rip them up because I done learned from paying back all them high interest loans. That's okay. Rip this up. I'd be better off not messing with these people, man. Because they will have you paying forever. You understand? I just rip it up. And the mailman laughs because I go to my mailbox and I know when it comes from the funding department, or this is coming from the government lending department. I throw it in the garbage right away. He said, "You still get?" I said, "Man, I get them all the time, man." They go in the garbage, man. Yeah. The Bible says, we read it here. It says, who's that? Angry Britches. It says, you can lend to the stranger, not to your brethren. At interest. Don't charge interest. In fact, it's in the previous chapter, chapter 23. Notice what it says in chapter 23, Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 19 and 20. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 19 and 20. Notice what it says. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother. Usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury. But unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury, that Yahweh thy most high may bless thee in all that thou settest thy hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it. So when it means fellow Israelites, you don't lend upon usury. You don't charge interest. Yeah. But if it's a stranger, he says somebody from another nation, okay. But even us, when you have somebody that's receiving this truth, don't lend upon usury. And I tell you, don't lend to anybody. If you can't afford to just lose it, forget it. That way you're safe. You ain't worried about losing no money. If you got it, you can lend it. If you give it, if you don't got it, don't give it. Okay, because that way nobody gets in trouble. You gave money, they got the money, you did your best. All done. Okay, all done. Deuteronomy 24. Let's go from verse 14. From verse 14 down in 15. Oh, yeah. Deuteronomy 24, 14 and 15. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in thy land, whether at thy gates. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it, for he is poor, and set his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto Yahweh, and it be sin unto thee. So this is what it means, oppressing the poor, right? Check this out. So back in the early 1900s, they used to have all kind of labor. There was no laws. Children used to work, and they used to work all kind of hours for wages, right? So finally, labor unions came into effect, and they started, protesting and shutting down factories and things. And finally, they came to certain agreements. One of the agreements they came to eventually was you have 40 hours is a week's work, full time. Anything over 40 hours is time and a half, right? Y'all heard of that, right? So you work 40 hours, that's your time. If you work more than 40 hours, it's time and a half. They pay extra, right? Well, how did you get over that? How did they get over that? I noticed it when I graduated college. When I graduated college and they put me in the management, they put you on management. Management means there's no overtime. They could work you 40 hours, 60 hours. You get this, it's your salary. That's right. You're getting the same pay no matter how many hours you work. So that's how they overcame. That's how the rich people overcame the wages, right? They could put you on salary. Now you're in salary. You're not hourly no more. You're salary. So when you and when you're hourly, you notice a lot of times you'll have a hard time getting enough hours. So that people that are hourly, they have to go get a second job because they can't. They'll tell you, I can't get the hours. Why can't you get the hours? Because they're trying to avoid paying you enough salary that they got to pay enough wages that they got to pay time and a half. Or if it's part-time, they don't want you getting the full-time. So they limit you to 30, 33 hours and you got to go get another part-time job, right? And so that's, again, the rich oppressing the poor. That's the way they do it, okay? The rich oppress the poor. They get you, there's always some ways around it. I leave that to conviction, Akawan Banya, because I leave that to individual conviction. I don't think it's anybody, because if you know the history of unions, right? Like I just said, they came right, but then unions started getting powerful and corrupt as well, right? Like I remember I was in New Hampshire and I was doing I was actually Bible study, and we got into the subject of union, and there was these guys there, and they were from Massachusetts, and they said that if anybody ever came on a job site in Massachusetts, they were saying in Boston, and they weren't in the union, they said they give them time to join the union. But if they didn't join, he said he might find himself a brick falling on him or somebody let go of a rope. And I said, what? He said, yeah. They don't say it, but you got to join the union. Or if they find you in New York working on a house and you're not unionized, or you're an electrician and you're not unionized, you're going to have a problem. Yeah, it's very, very upset. So I leave that to conviction. There's pluses and minuses to it. It can be oppressive as well. It was created not to be, but it ended up being. And I can't speak for all unions, so I can't say. So I want to answer your question. I leave that to the person's conviction. How does that person, we try to live according to your conviction. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. So I can't condemn a person that joins, and I can't tell people not to join. So I don't think it's a personal conviction. It's a personal conviction, a union. See, so everybody has to, you got to do that by your conviction. If you're convicted you shouldn't be in a union, don't join one. If you're convicted that it's fine, that it gives you certain protections that you want, join one. Yeah, so I can't say I can't say yeah and nay. I will say this though. I mean, if the Most High doesn't want you to be in a union, believe me, he'll make it known to you. I will say that. If you ask him, ask the Father. And if there's a conviction not to do it, he'll make it known to you. Okay, he will. Yeah, yeah. So I wouldn't. I've known people that felt both ways. I've seen people in unions, and I've seen people not in unions. And like I said, I can't condemn one or not condemn the other. I don't think that's right. And I wouldn't. I wouldn't condemn anybody for that. Okay, that's an individual conviction. But like a brother, a Hebrew once came to me once and said, "What you think about smoking weed?" And I said, for myself, I'm convicted not to. Well, he said, I'm not convicted not to. And I said, well, brother, I can't, it's not for me to condemn you for smoking weed. He said, it helps me relax and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, look, I'm not going to condemn you. That's not for me to do. You understand? So that's the same thing with unions. Yeah. The thing about Kyrie, though, I understand about the brother takes stands, but the brother is getting, 30, $40 million a year, right? I mean, I'd take stands easier too if I was getting $30, $40 million a year, right? Like you would I would take 1 month of his salary and I'm done. Give me 1 month of Kyrie's salary and I'm done. Okay. That's what I'm saying. So it's much easier when you're making that kind of money, to tell people what to do, yeah, man. But he's telling us here, don't oppress people in their wages. When you agree to a wage, pay the wage. Okay. Don't agree to pay and don't pay. People do that, especially people that have private, even today, private stuff or they work, especially people that get, unfortunately, people that get northern tribes or Hispanic, so-called Hispanic people from Mexico and different places, and then people from Jamaica to work in their fields. Sometimes they get them to work and they don't even pay them what they promise, or to work in they pig factories and all that. They get people to do all that and don't pay them what they're supposed to. Sometimes they treat them worse than slaves. And that happens right now. That happens right now. Off the books, that's right. They treat them terrible. Okay, that happens right now. They get people from all these countries, different countries, so-called third world, and they pour and they just try to make a couple of US dollars and bring it back to their house, and they rip them off, man. So all of that, brethren, is going to be answered for. There's not one. Remember the Messiah said, he said that not one sparrow falls to the ground without the notice of the Father. So all of these evils that happen all over the place that we can't even count, everyone's going to answer for them. Everybody's going to answer. Okay. There's not one person that's going to get over. Not one. Everybody's going to answer. All right. Let's continue. Deuteronomy chapter 24, beginning at verse 16. Deuteronomy, I'm going to read just that one verse. Deuteronomy 24, 16. The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. And this, people do that, right? They blame, when somebody in the family does evil, they blame the whole family, right? Whether it's father to children or children to father. I've seen that. There was a father that lived in our neighborhood when my kids were born, pedophile, molesting his own children. His all children, you could see they was all messed up in their heads, man. And people treated the children, after they caught the pervert and put him in jail, they were treating the wife and children differently. Nobody had sympathy for them, and they had to move away. Yeah, it was bad. And landlord made them move away. When the husband got caught being a perv, the landlord made the wife and the children move away. Shouldn't hold the wife and children responsible for the sins of their father. People do that, and the Bible is telling us Israel shouldn't do that. Okay. Verse 17. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and Yahweh thy Most High redeemed thee thence. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. So, again, treating the poor, A widow, don't even take a pledge. If you're going to lend her the money, lend her the money. And like I said, if you're going to give the money, give the money. Especially somebody that's a widow that can't work. Especially today, like I said, you see older people. You ever go to Walmart or you go to the supermarket and you see people that look like they in their 60s and they bagging groceries, or they greeting you saying, welcome to Walmart. What you think? They there because they just they don't have nothing else to do and they just need to do something with their time? You don't think they'd be liking to do something else? You understand? They're out there because they have to be. And they're in their 60s and they're in their 70s sometimes. I've seen here in Florida, I've seen baggers of groceries and cashiers, 70 something, and they could barely see the number they try to poke in, to barely see they couldn't even see the labels on the products they try. And why are they doing that? Well, usually what happens, brethren, is they retire and they're living on a pension and Social Security, right? And one of them dies. That death cuts the income. Okay, so if you had 2 Social Securities and 2 pensions, and one dies, you're gonna get 1 Social Security now. So a lot of times that's a severe cut to the income, major cut to the income. Okay, and so that caused them to have to go out there and get a part-time job, especially if they were renting. If they were renting and the price of the rents keep going up and their income doesn't, eventually they have to go out there and get work because they're not able to keep up with the inflation. That's right. The inflation is killing them, especially with the rents, man. You know, that's what happened. During this last recession, corporations were buying these houses for cash. If you were trying to buy a house, you see what I'm talking about. They were swooping in and buying up houses for cash for even more than the asking price. And so so that you took houses off the market that people would own, forcing people to have to rent. Then they raised the prices of the rent. Right? And that creates pressure on everybody. That's right. And that's a situation when you see in that in the last 30, 40 years, a lot where rents are more than mortgages. Okay. That's right. That's the way it was happening. My wife and I, we were blessed because we were looking to buy. Some of y'all remember we were looking in North Carolina, and every house we went to, man, it'd be a ton of people, and then somebody would come in. We're not even talking about mortgages. Some of them didn't even want to accept our offer because we had a pre-approved mortgage. They didn't want that because people were getting cash offers. Talking about $200,000 and $300,000 houses, cash. So we were like discouraged, and we were renting our house. And the landlord said, we'll sell you the house when we won't put it on the market. That's a big deal, especially in Northern Virginia. That's a big deal because people were selling their houses for cash, $500,000, $600,000. They put it on the market for us and didn't tell anybody they were selling it to us. And we got our mortgage, and we got and nobody. If the sign went up in front of the house, you'd have had a lot of people there. But that's how we got our house. And then we gave it to our kids, and then my father sold me his. Other than that, I don't know how we would have did it because these corporations were just scooping up these houses, man. And then the rents were going through the roof. Okay. We thought we was paying expensive rent. And we was when we first got there, like 13 years ago, we were paying $2,000 a month. And I was telling my wife, when we left, they were paying $3,500, $3,500, same properties, $3,000. And I was like, what? And the Most High showed us that in the dream that was coming. And we were a little nervous, but we said, well, he showed us, so he must be getting away. And he did. He showed us a way out. But a lot of people are in that situation. They're renting, and the owners keep raising the rents, and they're retired. They're on a fixed income. And don't let one of them die, because then the other one is stuck with a bigger rent and less money. Okay. And that's why he said, the widow, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, or the widower. It could be either one. Okay. Don't take the widow's pledge, raiment to pledge. Thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt. Yahweh redeemed thee from thence. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing now. We're not in the land now, right? We're not in the land. We scattered. We're not in the land. We're in Babylon. We in Babylon, right? This system we in is Babylon. All of us live in Babylon. Okay. But I want you to think about this. That's why I'm just suggesting this. If you go to a church, consider giving your tithe money to somebody poor that you know is struggling. And if you can, don't even let them know it came from you. Consider, instead of putting it in some reverend's basket, because he's a nice guy or he's charismatic, give it to somebody that's struggling. Somebody that you know is struggling. And it ain't hard to find. You know, and I know it ain't hard to see. You can give it to somebody that's struggling. Okay? You can hand it to them in an envelope, just keep on walking, or put it in their mailbox, or whatever you want to do. But it's much better to do that than to give it to these 501c3 corporations that's just ripping people off in the name of God. Much better. And your reward will be great. I can guarantee you that. Is that what he said right here? It says, when thou cuttest, well, it says, therefore, he says, what do you say? Wait, but thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and Yahweh thy Most High redeemed thee thence, and therefore I command thee to do this thing. Verse 19. Look at this. When verse 19, Deuteronomy 24:19, when thou cuttest down thy harvest in thy field, and thou hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that Yahweh thy Most High may bless thee in all thy hands. See, Yah said he ain't gonna bless you for giving double tithes to some church. Don't listen to them rip-off artists, pimps calling themselves pastors. No, he gonna bless you if you give to somebody that can't give back to you, somebody that's poor, somebody that can't give back. They can't pay you back. He gonna bless you for that. Okay, he'll bless you for that. Don't give what you can't afford to give now. Don't put no pressure on yourself. Give what you can afford to give. If you can afford to give, you give. You know people that are poor. Listen, if you live in Babylon, you know somebody that's poor. Okay? But don't let them know it's you, because then they'll come knocking on your door all the time. You don't want them to know it's you. Okay? But see if you can make it happen that way. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell nobody. Even if you can use a third party, if you can mail it to them, that's right. You do it that way. But don't let them know it's you, for your sake and for their sake. Don't let them know it's you, because they'll keep coming at you. One time, man, I was sending money to this widow. I was sending groceries to her. Man, she found out that it was me, and she kept coming every month. And I couldn't tell her no, you know. I kept giving it, but I didn't want her to know it was me. So for a couple of months, she didn't know it was me. Then all of a sudden, she found out it was me. And I was like, they must have put my name on the receipt or something and messed it up. And then, you know, then she kept coming. So you're not a bank. unless you were Rockefeller, and you Rockefeller, you wouldn't be in this Bible study. So you're not a bank. But, you know, for their sake, don't let them know it's you. But try your best to help a poor person. If you're benefited, you know, you're making good money, you're paying your bills, you got your roof over your head, you got your food, you okay, right? Then, you know, if somebody needs help and they come across your path and you see it, you know, you could do something for them, you know, just like that, right? Yeah, see, that's right. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 20. See, notice he said, if you forget a sheaf in the field, don't go back and get it. That's for if you forgot it, forget about it. It's for the poor, the fatherless, and the widow. From verse 20 down to verse 22, Deuteronomy 24, from 20 to 22. When thou beatest thine olive tree, and thou shalt not go over the boughs again, it shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing. See? So, the principle here is, if you know, they used to use a big thing to beat the tree to get all the fruit off the tree, right? He said, beat it down once. When you beat it down, take all the fruit, but the rest of it you leave. When you go through your vineyard, you gather your grapes, Take all you can, but when you finish, leave the rest there. Okay, see? That's for the poor. He made provision. Don't stand out. Don't go in their house looking for the pledge. Leave it. If you lend to your brother, don't even expect it back. Just give it. Don't charge him no interest. These are principles to help the poor. And notice this, the poor, the fatherless, widow. And we know also the tithes. Poor, fatherless, widow, and Levite. Poor, fatherless, widow, and Levite. Now, today, the tribes are scattered. So you don't even know where all the Levites are, but you know where the poor, fatherless, and widows are. And most of them widows are older people, but they could be younger people too, but mostly dealing with the older folks that, again, they lost one of their spouses dead, and they're getting half their income. They need help. Okay, they need help. So if you can help. Okay, if you can help, do so. A lot of homeless people in that situation. A lot of homeless people in that situation. Not all, but a lot. Okay, a lot of them are. So if you can help. Well, that was chapter 24. Praise the Most High. Again, principles of righteousness. We're going through that chapter 20, 24, 25, 26. When we get to 27 and 28, it starts to get even deep, though. And we'll talk about that. Of course, 28, y'all know it's a deep chapter 28. But we're going to go through 25, 26, principles of righteousness. Praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom.